running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans. Welcome to Talking in Ovals. How's everybody doing out there on this Monday, August 26th, 2024, episode number 103. I am back. I am here. I had my week off, my soiree, and Dave held down the fort. What's going on, brother?
Not much. I am just so excited that we have so many athletes that did not stop running at the Olympics because we are getting some absolutely ridiculous performances week in and week out. And it's going to keep going until the Diamond League final. It's been spectacular.
I can't wait until we're talking about a bunch of these athletes, though, running in America after the Olympics because there's big meets in America, not just the Diamond League, damn it. But last week, Dave, you held it down. You had a fun show. You talked to Angelina George and Coach Brian Prendergast, who was a previous guest. We've had Brian on before. But Angelina, star senior over at Manasquan, where you are coaching. And you guys had a fun show, a great show. You held it down. You had some jitters about being the host, but you took care of it, man.
Yeah, I think the intro was rough, but then I kind of found my groove. But we definitely missed you there, guiding us through. I just tried to do the best that I could without our leader, but we made it through.
I mean, with a leader like me, we might as well be like a rudderless boat, man. Anyway, so before we jump into all the fun stuff, go find us on all social medias at Talking in Ovals. Give us a 5-star rating wherever you are. Subscribe on YouTube. Spread this word of mouth. It's the biggest way, the best way that shows like ours get bigger. On X, give us a follow, retweet, all that good stuff. And I want to jump in quickly. Adam Nalvin, our buddy, the 3rd annual River Rock and Run 5K. Saturday, November 16th. Go sign up. All the proceeds go to Monmouth and Ocean County Food Bank. You can either run a full 5K. You can hand off a baton at a 1.5, which is rare in a 5K to hand off a baton, but it's dope. And just have a great time. Good food at the end, some drinks. So go support that. And I want to give a quick shout out to one of our former guests, and she's one of our super fans, Morgan Yulehorn. She is a rising sophomore over at NYU, stud and star sophomore, I must say. And she has a podcast, The Mile You're In, all about running. And it's, where we talk to people and get their stories. She does a different side. She does a lot of the practical things of being on runs and mindset. So go give Morgan a watch. I know she watches and she will listen to us and stuff in bunches. So we're giving you a shout out because we love our super fans. So, but this week, Dave, I'm pumped because we talked to this guest a few seconds before. And I said, I was amazed when I messaged her because I message 7 million people to come on the show all the time. I messaged her and I was like, she ain't going to respond, but whatever, just throw it out there, might as well. And then it was a few hours later, it was like, boom, I'll do it. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then she was even cool enough I was an idiot and double booked. And I was like, hey, can we push this back? And she was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, wow, This is awesome to have someone so great. She is easily the fastest person for females that we've ever had on the show. And, it's incredible to have her. So let's just bring her in. It is Bianca Knight. She is a 2011 world champion, 2012 Olympic champion, and world record holder. Bianca, what's going on?
Not too much. Nice to be here with you guys on this late Monday evening.
Listen, the reason why it's so late is because it's me. I have to put my 6 and 4-year-old daughters down to bed. And this is the time where after they get to bed, which sometimes it's rocky because the 4-year-old doesn't want to participate. So I'm texting Dave, texting the guest, like, can you give me 15? She won't go to bed. But that is the reason why it's so late. So
I understand. I have 2 myself. So
there you go. So you're a parent. We're all parents here. We get it.
We absolutely.
So I want to jump right into it with you. And I'm going to ask you the same question that we ask all of our guests when they jump on this show, because you're a runner, but you are an exquisitely good runner. When did you get the spark to stick with running and be a runner? Because one thing about sprinters that I always notice is sprinters are athletes. Sprinters have options usually.
Yeah.
With distance runners, they're usually a bunch of nerds are just really good at, they start running, they figure out they're good at it, and they stick with it, right? Yeah. Sprinters are usually I was a great sprinter, but I was also a great soccer ball player. I was a basketball player. I could do volleyball. So when did you get the spark to be a runner, to stick with being a runner and make that your career choice?
Honestly, the 9th grade. I started competing in sports at 10. Like you said, I did softball, I did basketball, and I even did dance. Nice. I was just an athlete and I just did a few different things. And in the 9th grade, when it was indoor season, they wanted to move me up from JV to varsity, and it impeded with the indoor season. So that was the first time that I had to make a decision on if I wanted to continue to be a two sport athlete, or if I wanted to lock in on one thing. And of course, track was, by that time, I had already set a lot of age group records. I've been to the Junior Olympics a few times and placed high there, set age group records, of course. And I said, well, I think that I enjoy track and field more. I like the traveling. I just like the sport more. And it was individual. I didn't like losing.
Oh, yeah.
Our basketball team was okay, but we lost a lot. And I was just like, I win a lot in track. So I think that I'm going to go towards the sport that I win the most in. So ninth grade, I just made the decision to only do track and field.
Yeah, it's amazing how many guests that we've had that said that the main reason why they chose track was because they won, they were good, and because, like you said, they had control. They felt over the outcome because it was more on themselves than depending on teammates.
Exactly.
So another question I have for a lot of sprinters too, because sprinting is a lot of God-given talent, right?
Mhm.
It's a lot of it. But to get to the level you are, at one point sprinters realize, okay, my God-given talent's only so much. I got to put in work. Those distance runners, I thought they were crazy at first, but now I realize that's the level of work that I have to put in as a sprinter, right? So when did that click? Because obviously, you decided to jump right into running, and, the God-given talent will get you as a county champion, a conference champion, even really competitive, maybe win states. But now you're looking at the national level, and it's like, I want to be there. So when did it click for you as a sprinter to not just be the one who was like, I just want to do starts today, I don't want to do that workout, to, all right, coach, what do we got? I'm going to follow everything that you say. What's my weight room? What's my workouts? Like, so when did that transition happen? Because I feel like that's always a transition for sprinters where it's like, I really don't want to do much. I'm really fast. I know I am, to, all right, I'm willing to put the work in.
Believe it or not, my very first coach, which was my club coach, his specialty was mid distance, like 800 and up. So I trained like an 800 athlete in high school. I did 2-4, so I did a lot of 600s, a lot of 500s. So to be very honest with you, I didn't even start running 100 seriously until about the 9th or 10th grade. I started out as a 2-4 girl. And I went 52.9 as a ninth grader, summer of the ninth, this summer. So I really was, a mid-distance training athlete. So I've always had a really, really hard work ethic, and I never asked questions. It was more so like, I see the results, like I see the proof in what we're doing, so I don't need to question what we're doing. I was just always coachable. It wasn't broke, so I didn't fix it. But of course, once I got to like the 9th and 10th grade, training like an 800-meter athlete, and just not wanting to do that, I decided I want to run 100 a little bit more. And that's when I finally got to the point. I was like, okay, well, maybe I won't do the 400 as much. And I did the 1-2 more than I did the 1, 2, and 4. But I did all three throughout high school.
Did coach ever make you do an 8?
No, I never did. I never made me do 800.
I mean, and that's such a shame, because with 52-second speed training that way, you were a 210 girl in high school. Like, at least
probably
a 210 girl. And
faster than that. You run 52. She's running 205.
What would have changed too if you would have maybe ran a few 8s, right? Like, you could even look at that. Like, if you were sitting there breaking 210 as a 9th and 10th grader and now successful there, like, it's kind of a fun what if. But obviously,
she made the right
hell of a choice, because you ended up getting, to the biggest stage and the pinnacle of our sport. So,
well, I actually made it to the state championship in cross country. I ran cross country.
Oh, wow.
We ran in Mississippi. They didn't do the 5K yet. So it's like 2.1 maybe. Okay. Something like that. And I was a 14-minute runner. So I was I had about a 5-minute mile. I did cross country from 7th grade to 9th grade.
Still.
Also. So I did have, I had a big distance background. So when it came to, just training and wanting to work hard and do all of those things, the sprint part actually was easy. I didn't like that part actually, because I was so used to training longer. I would always get injured when I dropped down to do like starts and 100s and 150s. So I always kept it like 250 and up. So yeah, I was one of those short sprinters that did not enjoy block work. I hated it, didn't like it. It hurts. I'm always so sore the next day, but I did love the weight room. I didn't start lifting until college. I did no weight room in high school. And yeah, so I really took my time to develop and I just listened. I was very coachable. So my coaches never had any issues getting me to do things.
So, what would be your advice to some sprinters if they're listening right now? Would it be to kind of, because one of the things when I was coaching over at Marist for a few years, I was in charge of the sprinters and we did weight room. And one of the things I always made them do after weight room was I had them all go do a shakeout run. Every single one. The distance team, I was like, all right, go hit an easy 2 miles afterwards. Like, you guys shake out your legs. But for the sprinters, you're my 100, 200 meter runners, I was like, go hit a half mile to a mile. And they hated it. But then towards the middle of the season, when they're like, oh, I can finish a 2 better. Oh, I can finish that 100 stronger. They kind of bought into it. So, what's your advice for some young sprinters right now? Would it be to embrace that kind of side of it? What would it be there?
Of course, everyone's different. Your pure 100-meter athletes will probably not even benefit from the base work like your 2-4, your long sprinters would. So it definitely varies. But I would say that for any sprinter, to not skip the base work, not skip that area of training where you get to run longer and you're not the rest is more like your rest recovery is more important than the time that you're running during the intervals. Just to, build that lactic threshold and things like that. Even though, again, if you're a pure 100-meter athlete, it may not mean that much to you, but your 2-4 athletes absolutely build that threshold, embrace those 400-meter repeats. You're not on the clock for the repeats. You're on the clock for the rest. So, just stick to what you know. And I give it to my sprinters. Of course, I coach at a college right now, and they do breakdowns. They do a lot of repeats. We do a lot of fartleks. We do a lot of heels.
I love that.
So, and they're like, oh my God, why are we doing 1,000? It's like, well, I'm not timing the 1,000, but I do want you to stay within a parameter. I want you to push yourself as best you can, but we're going to come back and we're going to do another one. And it's not because I want you to actually compete in 1,000 or anything in the arena. I want you to learn how to be able to push past that threshold when it starts to burn and it starts to hurt, so we can just build up your endurance. So when you run a 4, like you said, you won't hit a wall. So I encourage it. Our athletes don't want it, but I think for your 2-4 athletes, training like mid distance is very, very helpful, and it keeps you away from injuries. So
it definitely does. It absolutely.
So
does.
I want to get back into you, because for those people who don't know, you were the Gatorade Athlete of the Year. And you were the first ever from Mississippi to win that. So go back to like, what are some of your favorite memories from high school, and maybe get into a little bit like why you chose to go to college at Texas. Was that always a choice where you wanted to go as a kid? I mean, Texas Longhorns is an amazing place.
So and to be able to kind of buck Mississippi State and Ole Miss down there, which had very good running traditions as well, sprinting traditions down there.
Yes.
They did, but their sprints didn't come until a little bit later. Mississippi State was very known for their jumps and their distance, and Ole Miss was known for their field and their distance. So it was kind of, and Ole Miss at the time did not have their track completed. They were going to complete it the year after I graduated from high school.
Okay.
So those were the hindrances there. They just weren't a sprint program at the moment. But Texas, of course, they were a powerhouse in pretty much every sport, and I just want to be a part of a winning program.
Because I would imagine. You said you're in 52.7 as a freshman. You could have gone anywhere that you wanted to. So I just love hearing why people chose where they went. Because you had Texas. LSU was really good there. USC. So
And I visited all 3 of those. That's so funny. USC was actually my first choice. It was my first choice, but
which USC?
USC, California.
California. Okay, I was sure you meant Carolina.
No, I actually didn't give Carolina a visit, but I visited USC, Kentucky, LSU, Jackson State University, and Texas. Those were the 5 schools that I visited. And Texas, to be honest, I was the only one that signed with that class that year. I wanted the individuality. Wow. I didn't want to go to a school where it would be a bunch of freshmen transitioning together, because I came from a background of where I was the only one I had a lot of attention from my coach. So I didn't know how I would fit in coming in with a huge freshman class. I think that year Texas A&M and South Carolina had the biggest freshman class like you could think of. So I knew that I wasn't going to those schools. And I just wanted the individualism. I've never been coached by a female before, so I wanted a woman coach. And it really wasn't much more to it than that. Like you said, I had the choice of wherever I wanted to go, and I just picked what felt good at the time. I didn't think I would be happy in California because it was so far away from home. And that was really the main reason that I didn't go to Southern Cal, but it was my first choice by a long shot.
So I'm curious what that process is like, right? You're 17, 18 years old. You're on top of the world in your sport. Like, to say you had the pick of the litter, you had the pick of the litter. Like, there
Everyone
wasn't a
knew
school
who she was
that you couldn't call up a coach and they'd be like, oh, yes. Like, right away. Like, so what was that like? What was it like? Were you forcing yourself to stay humble in those situations? Were you like, what was that process like? Because being a kid and having that much power is pretty difficult to deal with, right? So what was that process like?
It could be daunting.
No one ever let me know how much power I had, if that makes sense. I walked the halls like anyone who was a classmate of mine that went to school with me, they will tell you that I walked the halls like everybody else. They had no clue. They knew that I was really, really good and things like that, but I never carried myself any differently than I did from any other athletes at the school. I never asked or received special privileges. And nothing was ever made a big deal. So even when I won the Gatorade Award, and I actually set the world record that wasn't broken until 2 years ago by Deja Hodge. Mia Braham broke it first, but I was the first person to go under 23 seconds in high school indoors. And it took 16 seconds. It took 16 years for someone else to do that. So it's like not until now that I really realized how fast I really was. So back in that time, we had so many fast athletes. Of course, myself, Jenna Batarmo, Jessica Beard, Ebony Collins. We had so many fast people in our class that it felt normal because all of us were so fast. So I didn't think that I was doing anything out of the ordinary until, of course, now I realized, like, man, I really was the first one to do this and the first one to do that. And it just didn't hit me until many years later. So through high school, I didn't know.
I can imagine that helped you stay hungry and stay humble too, right? Like without, like, social media was there, right? But it wasn't as big as it is now where, Quincy Wilson knows who he is. Like these people, like these big runners, they know who they are. They know what they're doing, where, ignorance sometimes is bliss, right? Where, yes, you knew you were fast. You were good in your state. You went to nationals. You were good in the nation. But it's like, but how good am I really, right? Like, did I have a good race? So because you knew, like you said, all the other young ladies around you were fast. You had Allison Felix still competing in that time. And it was like, so you're looking at all of these incredibly just fast women around the world too. And when you're at the elite level there, it's like the fractions make a difference, right? So you're not comparing yourself to other high schoolers at that point, or even collegiate athletes, right? Where you were looking at, okay, what's the world doing? So I feel like for you, you're like, I'm good, but, like kind of thing. I feel like that is maybe worked in your favor in a lot of ways. So I want to jump back to what Dave said, though. Walk us down memory lane, because we're kind of getting into, give us some great memories from high school, from college, from pros and beyond.
Okay, so of course my favorite high school memory is being Gatorade Athlete of the Year. I was the only one up until this year. We had a baseball player, from Jackson. So now someone's joined me. And he's
Have you met him?
I have not met him, so I'm hoping to meet him. But he got drafted. I can't remember which Major League Baseball team, but he actually got drafted right out of high school.
Good for him.
He's sharing that award with me. So that was number one. And then setting a world record indoors with the 22.97. That was number two. I also won my first World Youth Championship in high school, Marrakesh, Morocco in 2005. I took gold in 100 meters that year. And that was the first that was my second year actually competing 100 competitively, and I won. So that was a good one. And then of course, when my freshman year of college, I set the collegiate record in the 200. And that lasted for 10 years. Gabby Thomas ended up coming behind me to break it. So
No shame in that. No shame in having Gabby be the one, right?
I'm happy to give it to her. Yeah, that was that. And then of 2011, I was lead off on the world championship team in Daegu. That was my first senior team. And that was our first gold in the 4x1 for USA since 2005. So I was a part of that, breaking that stigma. And then, of course, the world record in 2012. I was third leg on that. So in chronological order, those.
That's an amazing resume.
Oh, man, and it's like, and just remembering so you guys had broken the stigma in 2011. I kind of want to touch on that. Yeah. But there was still the stigma in 2012 of America just can't get the baton around when it
2012,
matters.
2024, the stigmas.
but that was still very much there at that time.
I was going to ask this question later on too.
How much pressure did you feel, and how much pressure did you ladies put on yourselves to know that if we get this stick around, we're guaranteed at minimum medal, but we should absolutely win? Like, our talent here is, even though there's still Jamaica, there's still Great Britain, there's still always the traditional threats, right? But our talent level, who's on this team, we should win. So what was that like, handling that pressure? Now, obviously, all the ladies there, you've all handled pressure your whole careers. You had champions there. You had, people that the best of the best were on that team. What was that like? Was 2011 a great moment for you guys to be ready for 2012? How did you handle that?
No, the prerequisite, honestly, was pin relays. In April of that same year, all four of us, same order, we ran together at pin relays, and we set the pin relays record. It's still there.
What a great concept. What a great concept.
So we didn't, we did that we did like one handoff a piece, and we were there really like, hey, it's the first race of the season. It's just a shakeout. Let's just kind of get it over with. It's cold, it's raining. Let's just run and have fun.
Traditional pen relays, right? Yeah. It's cold, it's raining.
That is our neck of the woods.
But let's do something. But here's the thing. It's cold, it's raining, but special things always happen at pen relays.
Always. We ran so well without even, like, it wasn't a thought. Like, it was just something we just ran out there and we found out. That's when we knew that we had really, really good chemistry. We were a group of women that could get together. There was no nervousness. It's just like, okay, well, just give me the stick. And that was pretty much it. We didn't overthink it. We didn't overthink what we had to do. And we just went out there and ran. So we went the rest of the season never running together again. Like, we didn't do Florida relays. We didn't do Texas relays. We didn't do anything. We didn't run again together until the first round of the Olympics. When I ran, and it wasn't even us. So we ran together at Penn, and then the finals of the world record team. That was the only time we ran together. So it was no pressure. Like, we felt so light. It takes Carmelita and Allison and Tiana to tell the story also, to just say how light we were. We were laughing, like, and joking and playing around, walking to the line, because we felt like we knew we were going to get the job done. Of course, was it world record fast? Did we know that? Like, no, probably not. Wasn't thinking about that. But did we know, like you said, at our best, we're unbeatable? Yes, we did know that. So it was just like, hey, man, listen, go run. Just go run and have fun. So it was no pressure for us. We weren't, the stigma of dropping the stick, that's more of the men, not us.
It is true, yes.
So we didn't have that pressure. And then also, like, the other three ladies had so many other things to worry about. They had the 100 and the 200 to focus on. Yeah. Tiana had the long jump and the 100 to focus on.
Allison had the 4x4 probably, right?
Yes, and the 4x4. So we had so many other things to focus on besides, like, I hope we get to stick around. Like, no, we had other things to think about. And I think it showed that we went out there very light without thinking all the extra stuff. And we just ran.
So I actually wanted to ask you about this. Like, the whole process for picking the relay, like, it seems like it kind of changed because, like, this year, we had like Quincy Miller, who was 5th, but then he didn't get selected for, like, is it supposed to be top 6? Is that really the criteria in 100? No,
that's not the criteria. Honestly, the criteria is anybody who competes in a sprinting event can be entered into the relay pool. So that's the 100, 200, or 400, which is why Allison, even if she didn't run the 100, was always in the 4x1 relay pool. It didn't matter that she didn't run the 100. She did a sprint event. So, though that is the way to get entered into the pool. So top 6, for the most part, in the 100 and the 200 are probably going to do paperwork just in case somebody gets hurt. You need to fill somebody in, and they're going to take 8 people to relay camp. So 8 people are going to go anyways because they have to try to, just test the waters before they actually go into the village, and they drop it down to 6. So it is narrowed down to 6 by the time you get inside of the Olympic Village and things, or World Championships, wherever you're going to be. So the pool is just that. It's just a pool of athletes. It doesn't mean that you're going to run. It doesn't mean that you're going to go. It just means that you're going to be in the pool of athletes that we can choose from that's done. Like I was in the pool. I took 5th at the Olympic trials. I was in the pool, but I was never selected for the relay ever. I was never selected for the relay. I was just in the pool of athletes. If they needed to call the next man up, somebody got hurt, they called me up, I ran, and that was pretty much it. But I was never selected to actually run.
Okay. So when you're jumping into the mindset of relays, I feel like it's very different. And we've kind of talked about potentially having like relay specialists eventually create teams, but you women and men especially are competing hard against each other at continental events, at Diamond League, at all these different level events. And to just have to go from wanting to tear each other's head off, right? Because especially being a sprinter, there's no niceties before that race. After the race, it's good job.
Yep.
But before the race, there's something different about sprinters. You guys have to want to, like, you got to be nasty. You got to have something in there to be a sprinter.
More of a men thing too. That's more of a men thing, and it's more of this generation thing. When I was competing,
you didn't see it as much.
Understood that I'm going out here to do my job. Like of course, we're not going to be. But we sat in the dining halls together. We ate together. We laughed together. We walked around the villages together. In whatever city we were in, if we were in Prague, if we were in Belgium, no matter where we were, just because we're competing against each other, we're still going to go tour the city together. Like we were still friends.
I'm coming at it from a guy's perspective. Yeah. So for me, it's like if me and Dave were sprinters against each other, I would have wanted to him.
I would have wanted to be more like Bianca and have some sort of civility. I'm not a huge fan of all the extra, but I see the importance, like with Noah coming out doing his things. Yeah. I know why he does it, and it's good for the sport. I don't love it. I
want more animosity.
Yeah,
I want more of it because I think it draws eyes.
It draws eyes. It's a social media thing, so you got to think. We didn't have.
I know.
We didn't have a reason or a need to make things seem like more than what they were. Now, were there fights on the circuit? Absolutely. Did people not like each other? Absolutely. But did most of you guys ever hear about it? Probably not, because that was not what we were about. So I think now it's more so, it's attention grabbing, the talk, the internet stuff, and the back and forth, and the press conferences now. Like you never saw that when we were all competing. And so I think that's just a new thing. And with the men, which what I always say, it's hard to separate what you're doing for attention and then who's going to actually take it as you don't like them or it's real animosity. And these are the same people that you're going to have to run with on a relay team. So it's very hard for them to separate it. As you can see for the men, it always have been. There's a lot of ego. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of button heads with the wheels and with the coaches. And that is their issue. Obviously, we have the speed, we have the talent, but the women, we just never had that problem. We understood the job and no one thought they were bigger than the next person. But the men, of course, everyone thinks they're the guy.
Yeah, so you're even seeing it now in the 1500 with Ingebrigtsen and Kerr, so it's,
but I feel like they have mutual
couple women long jumpers
too, they have mutual respect for it. I think it's different, but even to the credit of both Noah Lyles and Kenny Bettner, Kung Fu Kenny, it's obvious they don't like each other. You could see it. And I think kind of Fred Curley's caught in between. I don't think he minds Noah, but he's definitely closer friends with Kenny. Yeah. But you saw the willingness to be with Noah on those relay teams. Like they knew Noah was important for those relay teams, and I think Kenny and Noah handed off to each other. So they have to have chemistry at some point to be able to do it. So I do think that you got to be able to be a professional and put it aside, especially track's a different sport in that sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, even in the other sports like the NBA, guys could dislike each other, but I guess I'll put it this way. Is there something different when USA is across your chest? When that happens, does everything else go away? Does it just become like You're my brothers, you're my sisters now. Nothing else matters. When this is done, it's done. We can go back to doing what we do. But right now, we are here to represent this. Is that kind of the mentality that kicks in?
Yeah, it is. For the most part.
Yeah, obviously.
Our camaraderie, our camaraderie is a little different because you got to think we're one of the deepest teams when we make those Olympic teams, in terms of size and talent. So it's still a lot of individualism that comes with that, as opposed to your smaller countries who they are a little bit more intimate, and it means a little bit more that, oh, it's just a select few representing our country. Ours is kind of like it's different. It's huge, and
expectations.
We always win the medal count. Like it is. We expect to go in and do very well, and it's just. We just carry a different attitude than other countries. It's just nice, intimate. Even when we come back into the States, we're not received like other countries receive,
which is wild.
Yeah, and it's like,
we're trying to change that, Bianca. We're doing our best here, damn it.
Now, but you're saying, could that also be part of the fact that some of these countries, they're the only person from that country that is returning with a medal, whereas so many athletes do come back here? I mean, I'm not saying. But when you look at Tobogo going back, he was the only person from his country who, so it was huge.
Well, he was the only person who medaled as high, but you might his 4x4 team.
4x4 medal too. Yep.
And his countrymen actually did really well.
Amazing.
Really good. They did well. So even if it's just the city that you reside in or your 100%. You know what I mean? So you don't have to greet the whole team at the airport. They're traveling at different times that you should, but they're traveling back. Like when I came home, my family and the news station, everybody met me at the airport. So it's something as small as that. I was the grand marshal of my high school parade. I have billboards driving down the street.
But to show that you're appreciated, like they appreciate
100%,
and that what you did was important to the people there, and I think that's awesome. That needs to be done more for our Olympic athletes in general too, because outside of basketball, maybe like the women's soccer more than the men, because the men is the U23 team. They're not there yet, but the women, it's the pro women there. So it's like those already get their exposure for the most part. But everyone else, it's kind of your shooting, your gymnastics, you guys in track, swimming. It's once every 4 years you guys kind of get your shine.
Right.
But it should be more with when you guys return, because again, like you said, this year it was a tough battle for that gold count. That gold count came down to the last events. Obviously, we dominated the medal count like we always do, but that gold one was iffy against China. So it was like there should be more for what we do, and especially, I mean, without track, we definitely don't win that gold count. Track was backbone this year.
You don't win many medals.
This year more than ever, I feel like track was that backbone. So I want to talk about the Paris Olympic Games. When looking specifically at the sprint group, was this one of the deepest groups that we've seen?
Absolutely, man. They went and they racked up, like from the field, not even just sprint group.
Distance was amazing.
Runners, like distance was actually one of the most surprising.
Amazing.
In the 10K,
every distance event we medaled in.
Except for the 800, where we set an American record in 141. Like it's
record. So I mean,
were you jumping up and down when Cole was 15 too? Were you jumping up and down like everyone else?
Brian Hopper, he actually he has the same agent that I had, so I cheer for all
I love it.
of Mark Whitmore's athletes. It doesn't matter what event they do. So he did. Bryce Hopper, I love watching him. I watch him.
Kessler,
all of them. So. I think the distance stepped up in a way that people did not see coming.
No one saw second in the steeplechase. That's for darn sure.
They stepped.
And Rook's trying to go sub-8 in the Diamond League this year is insane to have. Like I don't think we've ever had a sub-8 guy. Have
never,
we?
Never.
No, so that would be insane.
So what did you make of I'm gonna just throw a name out, Noah Lyles, of his whole Olympics, because it was up. It was down. It was good. It was bad. It was controversial. It was kind of everything, but it did bring eyes to the screen. So he did his part there. I'm just curious. What did you think of everything?
I think he had a great performance, especially going and get that medal in the 100. That's the tougher event for him. So I definitely think that was a really good. I'm not gonna say that was a shocker, but it was kind of one of those like, wow, he really pulled it off. He's one of those athletes who says, I want to do this, and this is what I think I'm capable of doing, and then he goes out and he does. The 200 was obviously a little disappointing because that's his baby. We always expect him to do really, really well in the 200, but I am a Taboho fan, so
Me too.
I
listen. Let's Taboho is fantastic.
Yeah.
I do have to say though, I thought his comment on not being able to be the face of the sport because he's not arrogant is stupid. Because you kind of showed your moxie just by saying that.
Yeah.
So you are about that life, okay, man? Like you are about that life because you wouldn't have made that comment if you weren't about that.
Countrymen, I think sometimes there is like you get lost in translation. I don't think he meant it as a diss, but I think he also meant he was trying to say like it doesn't matter how good I am, I'm never gonna live for the limelight. Like I'm never going to big myself up. I'm never willing to jump up and down and make a fool of myself or look foolish or do this. Like I'm never willing to do those things. So therefore, no matter how fast I am, I'll never be the face of the sport. I think that's more or less what he was saying, because you got to think like even on the women's side, people say that, Sydney McLaughlin should be the face, like she should, but she's never going to be willing to.
Right.
Doesn't like to be on social media. She doesn't like it.
And that's her choice. Yep.
That's her choice. So
I see it differently. The agent
she was
needs
a little
to
bit more outspoken, or she was just made herself more available than she probably would be. She doesn't have the desire to do so.
No, she's been outspoken about how she doesn't want to do that.
Right.
How she wants her privacy, how she wants to just her and her husband. She's going to train. She's going to race. She's going to hang out with her husband. She's going to practice her religion, and don't bother her unless she comes to you. I got zero.
Boho is the same way. He's the same. He's like, hey, listen, I'm having fun. I'm having a really good time. Yes, I am one of the up and coming runners. I have the possibility to win the 200 at Worlds next year also. And then by the time the Olympics come back around again, I have the possibility to win LA 28. However, I'm not going to carry myself that way. I know what I can do. Everybody else know what I can do, but I have no desire.
I think he definitely,
I hate
made it.
No. So
I think
make your point.
He made it so that you can't just assume now that Noah's going to come back and just dominate race, because Tabogo's there. I mean, he's not up and coming. He's a rider.
And I think he might be a better 400 meter runner and a 200 meter runner.
I think he's more 2.4 than 1.2, but that's just me. But
here's the thing though, and like I said, I've said this before about Tabogo. I think he's fantastic. But go back into relative obscurity for the next 3 years, though. Go for it. Do that. Go back into relative obscurity. Track fans will know who you are. We'll know who you are. But no one will know who you are until 4 years from now. If you are more outspoken, we need less of these strong, silent types in track and field. Because the strong, silent types don't get you nowhere. You know why people even care about Letziel Taboho still right now? Because of his rivalry with Noah Lyles. It has less to do with him winning the 200. Now, again, to the track community, we will always pay attention to that, right? But ESPN will never care about Letziel Taboho again unless he's mentioned with Noah Lyles. And it's because of what Noah Lyles does. So,
and I think that he don't like athletes who aren't American don't care because they get so much love from their country that they don't care.
It doesn't matter.
What we think. Like they could care less. Like they do not care what we think.
Because he will never be in obscurity ever again, because he lives and trains there, and he's the most popular person in his country.
Our ESPN commentators are as ignorant as to say they show the miles per hour of a football player and compare them to Usain Bolt. Like that's how they don't know anything about speed. So,
except for John Anderson. John Anderson is a track and field junkie.
They still get it wrong so often. Like the comparison to the world record should never happen. Like it just should never happen. But they do it all the time, and it's just one of those situations where they look at us. It's like, y'all care, so y'all don't even care about sport. Y'all would show a soccer player and say that they can win the world championships. Like that's how much you think. Like that's how easy you think it is. Another country would never do that. Like so. People that aren't American do not care what America thinks of them in terms of a rivalry or how
And that makes
good they
sense.
are or
Yeah.
anything like that. So to Boho, he's like, listen, I just came home to 30,000 fans and I probably got land. They probably did crazy sponsorships. He probably has a car, all types of things, and he'll never have to worry about
He's living
anything
good.
ever again. Yeah.
So I guess my plea to DeBoho is get Americans helping to care about this. Because if America starts to care about this,
Yeah.
every single one of you down to that collegiate
listen.
kid that just enters in
Hey.
will be a millionaire, like every other sport.
Because we cared about Usain Bolt, and it
Yeah.
was great for him.
Because
So-
that's the thing. When America
Yeah.
dials in and our millionaires and billionaires and even the outside ones want to invest in an American league,
Yeah.
that's when everyone gets fed.
Right.
That's my plea to Boho. Please.
Yeah.
So, as a top-notch world champion sprinter, what do you think when you see someone like Sydney McLaughlin run 50 seconds over hurdles? Like, are you as amazed as like the overweight bald guy that I am? Who couldn't run that for 200 meters?
She's a one of one. Like I've been watching her since high school, and it's not.
We're Jersey people.
I live in New Jersey, so
it's not even the way. It's the way that she does it. I have never seen a more confident, a more composed. She's just one of those athletes that we probably won't get another Sydney McLaughlin. Well, I don't think we will get another one. The way that she carries herself, and it's not even to say like she carries it's athletically the way that she carries herself. She goes out, she says what she wants to do. She's not afraid to go out and try new things. Like her 400 when she went out and she went out too hard. She was just testing her limits, and she wants to push her threshold, and she wants to see what she can do, and she doesn't mind if people are going to talk or they're going to say anything because she's not going to even be on social media to see it. So I think that she is very gutsy, and she's one of those athletes that is like, look, I know that God gave me something that nobody else has, and I'm going to show it every chance that I get, and we see it every time she steps on the track.
So do you have any issues with the amount that she races?
I don't like it only because she is the most dominant person in our sport, but we rarely get to see her. For a lay fan, that's a turn off because it's like, okay, she's the best person in the world. She's broken the world record 4 or 5 times, but we don't get to see her. Like, granted, every time she steps on her track, it's probably going to be a world record, but you have to wait all year to see it. Like, you have to wait all year to see it. So I think it's a catch-22 for what she's trying to do. She can't race a lot, but for a fan, I think our big stars do not race enough.
Right, but I think she's almost at a point, kind of like you said, like if she just runs more races and goes and runs 52 seconds and wins, people are gonna be like, oh, what's wrong with Sid? Like, she has to be on top and run a world record every single time. Everyone's like, oh, she had a bad race. Like it's crazy.
It's still 51 low, I know.
Listen,
like,
I know it's insane.
Yeah, but
I mean, it's but like, again, I've coached against her. I'm in the state of New Jersey, and like we would stop in the middle of meets and just watch her run in high school. And she was in the Olympic trials in high school. So I actually wanted to ask you, it's because of Quincy Wilson and maybe Sid in the past. Alex and I maybe differ. Do you feel that this is an advantage for someone of that age, or do you feel it's too much too soon? Because I feel like he's kind of got a great head on his shoulders, and he's around people, and we're in an era now that's different than like one of my favorites growing up, Obi Moore, who kind of was great in high school and never had that extra people around. But I feel like Quincy's kind of, he's living his best life, but I feel like he's in a better place than maybe people were.
I love that they're letting him play football. That just shows you that there's the right people around him, that they're letting him do something besides the Olympics.
Yeah. I think it's too much too soon. And I only say that, and I say that about any high school athlete. Doesn't matter if it's a distance runner, doesn't matter if it's a sprinter. There's developmental stages that as an adolescent, teenager, and a professional athlete that you just have to go through so that you don't hit that wall. I said it when Candace Hill turned pro at 16. I said it when it's Travaris Friday. With so many kids in Florida that were trying to go out of high school, like Noah did and his brother. And I just did not agree with it, just because it's like, this is a little different. It's a lot different, especially for women. So, Mary Kane, those type of situations is like, I think that women especially should be left to be developed a little bit more, because as we get older, our bodies do change and things do happen. And if you're not ready, like, obviously as a professional, your shoe company does not care about that. Like, I could care less about you going through puberty right now.
Results.
Yes. So that's when you get in a situation where you have these coaches trying to dictate your body and try to figure out how we can stop you from growing up.
Yep.
So I do believe that there is a stage where they need to continue to develop, so that they're not rushed, because now you're having these situations where these high school athletes all of a sudden nowadays seem like, I don't know the whole thing about it, but it's like they're doping now, or not doping, but failing drug tests now because they're all trying to take supplements. Yep. So not that they are doing something to.
There's the on again, off again list that like the supplements that are on again, off again that people mess with them there. That even in regular like athletes at high school,
but
they monitor the list.
Shouldn't even be worried about taking any type of supplementation.
Agreed. Whey protein, that's it. It's all
but we didn't even do that. So it's kind of like, plus, we just were kids. We were kids.
Yes.
And we ate McDonald's and we drank Gatorade. And
I don't think Quincy Wilson
candy at track meets, and we just kept it moving. We weren't trying to figure out what kind of vitamins and supplements we could take and what can make us do this and what can make it, like, that was nowhere near a part of our.
We were still partying on Fridays and Saturdays after the football game and things like that.
And I think that the college experience is important, and I don't understand why some of these kids are going pro with the NIL now. Like, you can still go to college and
speeding everybody up. Everybody is saying, well, we want to go pro now. Like, we're not trying to go to college. We're not trying to run for a college team. Like, we can go to college, but we want to run with the pros. We want to be professional athletes. So they're trying to figure out, how can I go pro out of high school? Which
is crazy. One thing I want to say when it comes to Quincy real quick, the leadership of Vernon
Norwood. I was just going to mention
because Quincy did not have a good leg at his 4x4 by his standards, by American standards. Like, at that point, we don't care if you're 16, you're running the Olympics, right?
Yeah, the coach dropped the ball on there. He should have never led off.
No,
shouldn't have let off. That was insane. But the leadership of Vernon to take that young man, pull him right in, and just the things that he said. I would love to at one point have Vernon on this show, because he just seems like a grown ass man. Like, he did. That's the best way to put it. Like, he was a grown man. And he sat there as the leader of that unit. The obvious, him and Bryce Stadman, obviously those two are the leaders of that unit, being the veterans, right? Just sitting there, and the things that he said, just picking that young man up. And when they got their medals, grabbing him and is like, you are a part of this. Like, that I think will do leagues for Quincy Wilson's development. Because like you said, it could have stunted him there. He could have had a bad race, and that could have been the end of Quincy Wilson, right? Because mental is huge.
Yeah,
I feel like what Vernon did, we don't know what Quincy's going to become. He could be, fantastic now, and then we don't know, right? You never know with running.
It's so hard at that age to have any sort of gauge.
I just want to say what Vernon did, he is not getting enough credit. I know he got a lot there, but just obvious leadership that man showed, not only for there, but just for the track team. You saw, he people gravitated towards him. He was a leader, and I just love that moment when – I'm absolutely proud to be running with that young man. He's fantastic. And you don't see that enough of such an individual sport.
Yeah. And Quincy was supposed to be there. He was supposed to run. Yes. He was supposed to do everything. He earned that medal. He had a phenomenal season, a very long season.
Yeah.
Very phenomenal season. And he's going to go on and do great things. I love his work ethic. I can tell that he's a very hardworking young man. Like, to go out there, 44-20 is crazy. Like,
as 44-20 is crazy as a 20-something.
Yes,
as a 16-year-old.
So,
and to do it against grown men, to do it against the best in the world, like, dude, like, it's not like he did it at a high school meet and it was a big meet. He did it against the pros. Like, that's an intimidating moment. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, and he did it with grace. He did it with style. He
Yeah,
did. I mean, he came round after round. Everybody was waiting to see what Quincy was going to do. Like, he looked amazing. So, he and him and Christian Miller are going to be great. They're
Christian's
going to be
fantastic too,
fine.
yes.
I think that, we'll get to see them develop, and I hope, just hopefully they continue to develop. Because at 16 years old, you still need a little bit more time,
Yeah.
like you said, to grow up and get a little, he's gonna turn into a young man at some point. So, you just never know how that affects you. So, I just hope that he continues to have fun. Above everything else, just keep having fun.
And like I said, I'm happy that Bolus is letting him do football because I think that is showing that the right people are there. Yeah. And I was saying to Dave earlier, though,
have some fun. Enjoy
I hope he doesn't get too good at football because then Tyreek's going to sit there and be like, hey, man, what are you doing with that track thing? They don't make any money. So
that is definitely. I want him to keep playing football too. I want him to. I'm happy that just keep that door open. He definitely.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned it. I feel maybe because I'm like the eternal optimist that this is the best track has been in a sense of momentum after, because, we just had an Olympics where we had fans in the stands. Social media now with athletes is at an all-time high. We have the GOAT MJ Gold starting his own league. I feel like if we don't pounce now, and this is not the time for this sport to take off, I don't know when it's ever going to be better. What do you think about that? And do you think, like me, that it's going to start to really pick up like other sports have?
I think so. We definitely have the momentum from. I mean, that's the only good thing I say that came from that COVID year. That we've had all these championships back to back. So we built up a great momentum. We're adding more track meets to the states. Of course, with Alexis Ohanian, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was great. Yep.
Yeah. So that
Serena Williams' husband.
Yes. I don't like to say Serena Williams' husband, because he's his own person, but
he owns Reddit.
Right. So
he just sponsored women's track and field though.
I'm sorry. That's her husband. Okay. We do that. Okay. The famous person, the more famous one that's out there out front. Yep. I'm sorry. You're their spouse. Okay. That's not to be mean. Yes, he's his own person, but.
And watching her documentary, he's okay with that. He's okay. Call me her husband.
But he took the risk or the gamble, I would say, to start that track meet. So, I would definitely want to give him props for doing that. And I mean, the more people we can get, MJ starting his league, the more things that we can get that's building on this momentum that we created, the better.
So I also want to shout out that you were talking. I think you were just talking about the Athlos meet. Is that what you were referring to with Alexis? So one of my former teammates is directly involved with that as well at Marist College. He doesn't like doing podcasts. I already told him to come on. He was like, hell no. So we eventually may be getting someone, but hopefully, Dave, you and I will end up being there at that meet because that's a massive thing. And I just think it's freaking awesome too. Also, we had on a guest a few weeks ago, Zig Ziegler. He's starting Z Athlete Village, which is a world-class facility in Las Vegas, an indoor 400-meter track with a 200-meter bank track in it that it can be raised up and down. 4 pits, full pits, 4 throwing pits, 4 jumping pits, all like a world-class facility there. And he's starting an indoor track league that's more focused on multi-level athletes.
Okay.
But he is guaranteeing up to $260,000 in salary with if you meet bonuses as well. Yeah. They stay on a resort. They do these types of things. What would that mean for the sport if he can get that off the ground? If he can get just track athletes, obviously, you were more, actually might have fit someone like you who had that range that could have been good, at multi things and eventually learned how to jump better and do some throws because he wants athletes that could do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So what would something like that, because obviously Michael Johnson's focusing on the upper echelon, right? That's supposed to be like your Grand Slams.
Right.
Obviously, it's Grand Slam, right? But it's supposed to be like your big events here.
Right.
What would something like that be if you could sit there and could you imagine if you were sitting there and it's like, hey, he's building a resort there so the athletes can stay there. Mm-hmm. He has world-class facilities with like training that they're building. It's a $1.5 billion project that he has money for. It's insane what he's doing. What would that mean? And would that kind of be disruptive to the sport? Because it's mostly towards like multis. Like how are you seeing that fit in?
Not really, because I think if you talk about the pay disparity amongst events and things like that, I think it would help them out a lot to be able to have a league that is geared towards increasing their salaries and making it worth their while. You know, short sprinters on the track side, usually, you know, they do pretty well. So I think it's beneficial. I think that if they can do it, please do it.
if you get a chance to just, you know, it's a 2-hour long episode, it's a long one. If you get a chance to take a gander at some of it with the way the facility is going to look, like it's really cool. And I know he eventually wants to branch it out to create at some point a legitimate league where he can have all the disciplines there. But I think he's starting out with what he thinks is best. It's going to be 24 teams and things like that. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an 8-week regular season, a 4-week playoff. Like it seems like if he can get it off the ground, which way he's talking about, there is no if, it's when. When it gets off the ground officially, he has dates and meets planned and everything. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be lots of fun.
I definitely feel that, you know, we need to embrace this momentum and just kind of go for it, you know, like keep on the socials, everybody keep doing their podcasts and just don't let the sport go into obscurity for the next 4 years and just keep it going.
We're not going to stop. We just need to get more popular, right? So let's put a bow on the Paris Olympics. Did you have any surprises that you saw that you didn't expect?
No, not really. Well, I say Botswana getting silver in the 4x4. They looked poised to do
silver.
it. Actually seeing them do it was just like, okay.
They gave every ounce in that race. What a finish. Rye was holding on, man. He was, but you just got him that way. I mean, like the whole meet was just amazing. The top athletes showed out, and I mean, to me it was the best U.S. team that in terms of performances that we've ever had. You know, in terms of the whole team. I mean, I can't think of many events that we didn't medal in, which is crazy.
So I have a quick question. Since you've been a part of the Olympic Village and stuff like that, there was the story with Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce and Sha'Carri Richardson not being able to get in temporarily for their semi. Right. And, you know, you've been in those villages and you've had the situations where, you know, if they're not up to snuff, USA and some other countries just go and do what they got to do, right? What is that process like? Is there sometimes issues with the villages that just don't make any damn sense? Because from the outside looking in, we don't know enough information about how it works. So is kind of what I want to say, like, is there any excuse for being late, not knowing the logistics of things? Are all villages different with their rules? Like, you know, from a layman's perspective here.
It seems like they maybe just have different rules. Of course, everyone knows when, you know, what bus you're going to get on to go to the track and things like that. So it's never an issue of when you're going to get to the track and what's like they were clearly there in plenty of time. So I'm not sure what happened. Like, I don't have any idea what could have possibly been happened. That even if we are late, we're competing. Like, who cares? Let us in. So I still don't know the logistics of what was even said. Why they didn't let them in a timely fashion or whatever the case may be. But we did not experience any type of issues like that at all.
What I heard was that they both came in separate cars, not from the actual village itself. And they got dropped off at the entrance that was for the athletes coming from the village. And I guess they told them the entrance, if you come in a car, is on the opposite side of the stadium. So they made them walk rather than just let them in.
And here's my thing is, hey, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce and Sha'Carri Richardson, you let their asses in. Of course. No one's coming to see you, security guards. You're coming to see those two race.
That's what I read and heard. How true it is, I don't know. But apparently there's two different entrances depending on how you come via your own ride or on the bus.
Let those two in. I do not care.
Yeah, but that's the case. It sounds like a power trip if that's the case.
And I guess Shelly-Ann was just like, screw this.
Yeah, it sounds like a power trip. If that was the case, then whoever just wanted to exercise their power, say, hey, we don't care who you are, walk around. Which is nuts.
But even though talking about surprises, Shelly-Ann not running after that surprised me. It's her last Olympics. Unless she knew she wasn't ready, and it was like kind of a way to get out. I don't know. I mean, that doesn't seem like her, but I was very, very shocked that she let that kind of just say maybe out of anger or whatever reason, because she showed up there. It looked like getting ready to compete, and then
I think mentally that would put you in a space where you say, you know what, I'm not even prepared to go out here and execute the way that I want to, because I'm in disbelief right now. Like, you probably will be furious, and I don't know. It probably would definitely change. Like, you know what? I'm not. No, thank you.
And it was an uphill battle anyway for her there, with Sha'Carri being there, with Gabby obviously being there. Like, it was going to be tough, to get in there with that. So, all right. So, before we get out of here, because you have been generous with your time, and we appreciate that on this late Monday night, we're going to ask you the question that we ask every single guest. So, if you had a magic wand and you could flick your wrist and you could make a change to the sport of track and field, how it's run, things like that, in order to get more casual fans in here, in order to get our pro athletes paid, because me and Dave both believe individuals like yourself, who have represented us on the world stage, who was a legitimate bona fide pro athlete, should never have to worry about anything ever again in terms of monetary, right? Yeah. So what would you change about the sport in order to make it that more casual fans come in, and that we can make sure our individuals that enter at the pro level, that have success at the pro level, never have to work again?
Make a clear distinction between what is a pro and what is not. When the casual fan is watching our sport, they don't know what they're watching. They see 10 people in Nike jerseys, but those people are not on the same team.
Correct. My fiance, she asked the question. She's like, "So they're on the same team?" I'm like, "No, they just have the same sponsor." They're in different camps. They train across the country,
different countries, different everything. Like, nothing is the same for them. But in every other sport, the same uniform means that we are on the same team. So it's hard for people to know what we're watching. It was like, well, is he a pro? It's like, no, he's in high school. Is she a pro? No, she's in college. You know, it's like, well, why they got a college uniform? So they don't know what they're looking at, because you'll never watch an NFL game and then see a Gamecock jersey out there with everybody else. Like, it just won't happen.
Nope.
It won't happen in the NBA. It will not happen in any other sport, but it happens in ours.
I like it.
So a casual fan has no clue what they're looking at. So while I admire athletes who are able to compete with professional athletes as a high schooler, I think that if they're not going to be turned professional, then they shouldn't do it, because people don't know what they're looking at.
So should there be professional only meets, like where if you're not a pro, because it's been a tradition forever, where if you're in college and if you're good enough in high school,
and we don't have professional facilities. You have to run at a high school or you're going to run
college.
So we don't have a choice but to let high schoolers and collegiates participate, because we need their facility.
That's what we've been saying. We need more track only facility. We have the one at Icon Stadium in New York.
Stadium. We had Carson, California, the Home Depot Center.
We have a lot of indoor ones.
Indoor's not a problem.
Indoor,
we got a lot of indoors. A lot of indoors. But
you're right, because everything else is. I mean, even where we have our championships is at a college.
Yes. So
yeah.
You can't say, oh, they can't run and we need their stuff. So,
we've asked that question over 100 times, and that's the first time that we ever heard that perspective. And I absolutely have never thought of that. And it makes sense, because my fiance has asked me, like, are they on the same team? You're right. Like, nobody knows.
They don't know what they're looking at.
Right. Yeah. Because, every other sport, people root for a team. So like have leagues and have teams so that people root for teams. Even in college track, people root for college track teams. So it's not until you get to the pros where there's no team concept, because nobody's rooting for, I'm rooting for the Brooks Beast, or like nobody knows that. Nobody knows, So
and I could imagine as a pro too, lining up sometimes going, man, what the hell am I doing here running against this high school kid? Like, and knowing that there's a possibility this kid may beat me, and that's going to be terrible for my sponsor, right? Like, they don't care who Quincy Wilson is. He's a high school kid. I'm a pro. I shouldn't be losing to him. Like, they're and I feel like as
the season you're in, they don't care that this is my first race. This is his 10th. Don't care.
And there's some pride there too, right? There's some pride there too. It's like you're happy for the young buck because it's good for the sport, but at the same time, it's like you don't belong here. Like,
it's just, if I'm a professional athlete, why am I running against someone who's not a professional athlete?
I agree with that.
So it's not even about if they're gonna beat me or not. It's just like that's just like a professional NFL team. Like, why are we in a scrimmage against a high school?
I earned the right to be here. I put in the time.
Nope.
I worked
Yeah,
my ass off to become a pro.
So,
I absolutely see this
Yeah,
from
like
your
that.
perspective, but and again, as a casual fan, yes, but like as a pure sports fan, I love watching that high school kid try to break 4 in that pro race. So like
yeah.
as a diehard track fan, I'm like, I don't want that to change. But you're right, you do watch it and you're like, what am I watching?
I
Or
feel like there could
they
be
need more
choices,
graphics,
right?
you know?
Yeah.
I feel like there could be choices where these are pro only meets and these are open invitationals like we have, right? So that high school kid can go to the open invite that pros might be at because
Well,
it's
you know,
open and
they
the pros know it's open.
But the high schoolers can come, but they don't have to run against the pros. Take
Sure.
all of your elite, just like at the Adidas meet, they have the Dream 100, or you have that one
Dream Mile,
or you have your Dream Mile.
Yeah.
Insert them into the event, but let them run against each other.
okay.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I love that. And we've had similar conversations, but nothing with that. Like, and I like it. So, Bianca, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
You are welcome.
So once again, she is Bianca Knight, 2011 world champion, 2012 Olympic champion, and world record holder, and easily the fastest female that we've had on this show to date. If you want to go follow her on X and on Instagram at Miss Bianca AK, and you'll see it up there on the screen for those that are listening. Go find it. I'm not gonna say it to you.
And if you are new to the sport and you have a bad taste in your mouth of how the Americans should hand off the baton, go back and watch Bianca's teams, and you will see it done to perfection.
with 2 times in one season. That's it. All right.
Yep.
So once again, we are talking in ovals. Go find us on the socials. If you're watching on YouTube, X, Facebook, wherever you are, thank you so much. We always appreciate that. Go give us a like, share, follow, 5 stars, spread this word of mouth. That's the biggest thing. And just go look for us. We will be back